Well, everyone, welcome back. If I can be so bold, thanks for coming back. It's always a bit of a relief, to be honest, in the final afternoon break. How was that exercise? Super hard? All right, actually. I get it. I need more time. What are you thinking?
All right, till we get to column 3.
Yeah, all right, till we get to column 3, yeah? So we're going to have a look at the proofs point later. The reason I like preparing this, well, millions of reasons, but let me give you some of the main ones. Firstly, imagine if your business was simple enough that there were only these 4 afters. Now, if you were to do the whole thing, you might find there are 12, but let's say you work out however many afters there are, and you construct, let's say there are only 4 afters, you construct this table which has these 4 afters in. You then learn it, so you totally get it. Then when you're having a conversation with a potential client, you'd never show them this, of course, it's in your head, but in effect, you want to say to the client, which row do you want then? And they say, the after I'm most interested in is more time. Now, straight away, like a sales ninja, you know if they want more time, it's probably going to be for some of the bullet points in column 2. So you'll say something like, oh, really, why do you want more time? And they'll say, oh, God, my work is a nightmare. You go, really? Tell me more about that. And you get them to talk about column 2 stuff. And then when they've talked about it, then that's where you say something like, well, I think we might be able to help with that, actually. Would you be OK if we had a quick chat about it? Or whatever phrase you want to say. And then you talk about the proofs. So in effect, not as cumbersome as this, and not as unclassy as this, or unsmooth, you learn the thing, you go in and say to somebody, what row do you want? And they say 2, and then you talk about row 2 only. Then at the end you might say, is that the only thing you're interested in, or do you happen to be interested in 1, 3 or 4? And they say, yes, 4 actually, and they think about that. Now a bit more charm and a bit more class, but that's basically how the conversation goes. And at the end, they're going to think, I want more time. I want to reduce my costs. I want more time because of that one and that one of the possible 6. And I want to reduce costs because of that one, and that one. And these guys have done it before there. I've seen the timeline there, love that. I've got that there, and I've got that there. So they're beginning to feel quite comfortable in an ideal world. So we'll worry about the practicalities in a minute, but let's talk about the theory to start with. Does that kind of make sense to you? Now, most people, in my experience, don't start with this. They start with the left. They start with, why are we ace? Let's talk about our selling points. Let's talk about our unique stuff. They use words like this. So they start with the features, and then they have a column for advantages, and then they have a column for benefits or afters, whatever you want to call them. So they talk left to right. They get to the afters at the end, so they build up to the client's biggest interest at the end. Remind me, the problem with that is they switch off. Starting with the afters and working backwards, in my experience, will help you sell more stuff more quickly and more nicely. So when I explained this to a group of people the other day, someone asked me a really good question. They said, so are you basically saying, Andy, if I get that table done so it's ace and I learn it, and then I'm really good at asking good questions to see which rows people are interested in, is it as simple as that? And so, well, yeah, pretty much, actually. That's not a bad start. Think of how your competitors sell. If you sold like this, do you think you would impress people compared to the competition? Yeah? If you're not quite sure, have a look at their homepage and then think, yeah, actually, I think I'll be all right. I'd welcome your thoughts on this. I'm talking a bit too much. Let me shut up. So tell me some things you like about this, and then we'll talk about things you don't. So tell me things you like.
Simple, yeah.
Yeah, I'm loving that. Simple. Yeah, it's easy.
It's like a safety net, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a nice safety net. Yeah, and it starts with their end in mind, which is the thing. Yeah, love that. Starts with their end in mind, and we work back from there. Good. What else?
Systemize, so it stops you waffling.
Yeah, systemize, so it stops you waffling, because you know as you're in there, you need to find which rows are important.
Empathy. Excellent.
Yeah, great empathy. It's good for building empathy and getting on, aligning your priorities. What else?
Focus.
Yeah, good. Focusing. What do you think happens to your confidence? All right, let me ask a different way. Will your confidence definitely go down if you do that? One of the other things I like about this is it's good for asking prompting questions. Let's say you've spoken to a customer and the first thing that comes out is they want more time. Well, what you can also do is you're thinking, right, I have nailed row 2, but I need to just check if there's anything else here. It's very easy as a salesperson to think, thank heavens they seem to want one thing I sell, and come out too quickly. But if you say something like, so I understand you want to make more time, is there anything else that's important to you here? If they say, yes, reducing costs, happy day, they might say, well, no, I don't think so, in which case you say, okay, that's fine, can I just check something though, because in my experience there are 1 or 2 things other people have thought about. What about row 1? What about row 3? You see, the thing is, I think when you talk about their happy future place, that's not selling, that's being nice. That's actually helping. When you ask why that's good for them, you're going from corporate land to human land, which is a much more pleasant place to be. That's not selling, that's nice. When you say, I think we may be able to do this actually, and as Drayton said this morning, talk about stories, you know, facts tell, stories sell. So give a couple of stories when you've done it before. That's not selling, that's nice. So here's an idea. If your company is represented today totally because you haven't got any colleagues, on the train home tonight, crack this table out. If you've got colleagues who are here, on the train back with them, have a go at fleshing this out. If you've got some colleagues who aren't here, and you think this is a useful thing for you or for them, when you go back to the office tomorrow, grab half an hour and say, introduce this to them and say, can we just populate this? I've got a feeling it might help. If you like it. If you don't, that'd be ridiculous. I don't want to come across all Forrest Gump, but that's all I've got to say about that, really. You always want to finish powerfully with these things, Drayton. I think it's very important. All right, cool. Very quickly, look back over your notes from when I last asked the question. So what are you going to do tomorrow then? And you asterisk one thing. Can you see if you can get one more thing? Have a quick look at what your one new thing might be. Yes, there are no daft questions. Go on.
Are we all not motivated, if you're talking about a person's motivation by what they're after,
Mm-hmm.
are there not a generic set of things that we as individuals all look for when we buy something?
Well,
I mean, we talk about more time, less stress,
kind of,
more money.
but different people have different priorities. Yeah? And as Drayton said before, if you look at the emotional reasons to buy, which is probably what would go in column 2 quite often, there are 7, like those 7 that he talked about this morning, like, you know, salvation and all that stuff. And different people are wired by different things. So your skill as a salesperson is, in effect, to say, there's a finite number of things, which is it you want? But because there's a finite number of things, not everybody wants the same number of things in the same priority. So there's our IT supplier, I know them quite well, or I know the boss of them quite well. And when I was talking to him about our IT system, he said, so how do you want to do this? I like the question. He said, how do you want to do this? You want me to do the normal way we sell stuff, or should we just chat Andy and Simon? I said, let's just chat Andy and Simon. He said, all right, being uncorporate, what's the most important thing about your IT? And I know him really well. And I said, I want to see my children more, so I need IT to free up time so I can see my kids more. And if you can persuade me I'll see my kids more, I'll find the money for that. Now, I knew him well enough, so if you like, I'm not sure where that would fit in Drayton's 7 emotions, and you could do it any afters table you want, but because I knew him well, nothing else matters apart from that. Does that make sense? And then when he was going to do a proposal, so relieved by this, I said, before you put pen to paper, can I just give you a word of warning? I despise reading proposals. They're utterly dull, almost always, and I don't want to see one. If you have to do one, you've got half a page max. You're trying to prove to me you can save me time, so don't give me a 14-page proposal. It's like, doesn't really convey the right messages somehow. Is that all right to answer your question, yeah? Kind of? Yeah?
Because there's also multiple layers of decision makers.
Absolutely.
Things as well. So you have to make sure that
Yeah, you do.
is
Yeah.
understand his motivation.
Yeah, which is why one of my favourite questions to ask is when I started finding after that, I was like, just out of interest, who else needs to be impressed by this work? And what do you want them to say to you about it? If you want to get emotions, listen to that again. Who else do we need to impress with this work? And what do you want them to say about it? So one of our clients is a very big pension seller of stuff. And they say, who else do you want to be impressed with the multi-million-pound pension acquisition? They say, our staff. You go, yeah, of course. What do you want your staff to say about the pension fund? Well, we want them to say thanks for the bloody multi-million-pound benefit. They never thank us. They just complain about it. So you want to be thanked. OK, what else do you want? How else do you want people to describe it? And so the more you talk about this, the more the emotions come out. It's a very, very powerful question. Who else needs to be impressed and what do you want them to say? Now, at some point, some of you are going to think, it's all right for you, Andy, because you seem to have quite a few phrases in your back pocket. Tosser. So if you're there already, I'm sorry, but let me just put your mind at rest. Sometimes people say, are salespeople born or made? They are clearly made. All right? I have yet to hear of a midwife who goes to some proud mum and dad and say, you've had a little salesperson. You can absolutely smash this. All right? You can absolutely raise your game. You can rocket your game up. And in a second, Julie, who I was talking to at break, I'm going to ask Julie what one new thing she's going to do as a result of what we've done so far is. And you can listen to Julie. We're just going to hear a few more ideas. And then I'm going to talk about influencing techniques with you. Then I'm going to show you some scripts for how to close a meeting. Then I'm going to show you some scripts for, in my experience, the best way to win business by doing zero work. Okay? I had a quick look at the amount of business we won last year, and our annual turnover, I couldn't work it out exactly, but about a third of it came from me asking these 2 questions. And they took in total about 20 seconds every time. So a third of our business comes from this. All right, it's cool. So I'm looking forward to telling that. Right, Julie, tell me one thing you're going to do as a result of our session.
So I'm going to tell you 2 things. The first one is that you... Oh, come on.
All right, come on then.
So the first one is look at a presentation that we've written, and I'm going to cut out all of the crappy slides, which I think is at least 60% of the content.
I don't think that'll do any harm. Okay, very good. Thank you. And the other one?
I'm going to work out why I've written down brothel in Pimlico on my pad, because I don't know.
Bloody hell. I'm glad we heard both of those. Imagine if we just heard the first one. What about you, sir? One new thing?
I'm going to get the team to work through this so that it doesn't rely on me.
Yeah, cool. I always find if you ask other people, they come up with good ideas. It's good, that. It's good. What about you, sir? One new thing?
Next steps.
The next step still residenting with you. And let's have you, sir.
Going to be working with one of the sales team, just improving their presentations.
Okay, cool. Right, loving all this. Right, ladies and gents, let's have a look at influencing techniques. Influencing techniques are really important. I'm assuming you sometimes talk to other people, yes? And I'm assuming you sometimes want them to do something, yes? And I'm assuming sometimes when you want them to do something, they don't want to. Okay? Anyone with children will know exactly what I mean. In my experience, one of these 3 techniques virtually always works. Okay? I'd rather teach you 3 techniques and show you how to apply it to different situations than teach you 50 techniques. So I'm going to run through this, and then afterwards I'm going to ask you to pair off or think about how you might apply this in real life. Because Our job is not to do stuff. Our job is to cause afters to happen. And it's much better if you work out the afters while you're here. So here's the first one. If you want someone to say yes, you need BO. Now, BO doesn't mean what it normally means with body odour. BO stands for benefit and options. Let me run through what I mean by this. You don't know my children, but if I say to my 6-year-old, would you like to go to bed at 7:30 or not? Have a guess. If I say to my 15-year-old, would you like to tidy your bedroom or not? If I say to a client, it's going to cost 100 grand, do you want to buy it or not? Okay? Anyone see a problem with saying or not? How might they reply? Not. Yep. And I can't really complain about that because I gave it them as a choice. So Drayton was talking about this before about how you should always offer options, give them a choice. So the O stands for options. So I say to my little one, when do you go to bed tonight? Do you want to go to bed at 7 o'clock or 7:30? I don't mind. So she thinks I'm being nice. What am I really saying? Get to bed. When you're on a program like this, you think, well, that's just sales bollocks. I'd see right through that. So just before the break, I said, how long a break do you want? 20 minutes, 30 minutes? I don't mind. So you sound really nice. What are you really saying? Yeah, come back. Got work to do. Now, if I said to Maya, do you want to go to bed at 7 or 7:30, she still might say, neither, thanks. So the B stands for benefit. So BO is benefit and options. If you want someone to do something, give them a benefit of saying yes, and then options as to how they do it. You need to be able to process this table. It'll help you sell more. You need liquid in. You need liquid out. Benefit. So we'll have a break now. How long do you want? 20 minutes or 30 minutes? So in Maya's case, she likes reading. Benefit. Hey, chick, it's time for your favourite story upstairs. Do you want to go to bed now or in 5 minutes? I don't mind. So, Mrs. Customer, you want to get into Belgium. The good news is there's 2 ways we can help you get there. We've got this way. It's going to cost 100 grand. Or if we want, we could go this way and this way and this way. So we're cutting out a couple of corners. Not quite as valuable, but it does bring the price down to 60. I mean, which of those do you prefer? So the question is not, do I buy from Andy? The question is, which do I buy from Andy? Maya is not thinking, do I go to bed? She's thinking, when do I go to bed? When I said you can have a coffee first and then do your table or do the table, then the coffee, you're thinking, which do I do first, not do I do it or not? And I know you all saw through it when I said it. I said before about credentials presentations. I was helping a guy from Cable and Wireless with a credentials presentation, and he showed it me. And so the first thing I always do is look at the last slide, because if there's no call to action, nothing will happen. And his last slide said, thank you. So we know what we think of that. So I explained a bit of BO to him, and what we did is we changed his last slide. Oh, I should just say, he rung me up. I've worked with him before. He rung me up and said, it was 5 to 2. He said, I've got a meeting today. Can you give me some advice on how I can improve my credentials deck? And I said, yeah, sure. When's your meeting? He goes, 2 o'clock. I said, well, that's in 5 minutes, you dick. And he goes, I know, not got long. What would you advise? I said, right, what's your last... Well, ring me at 10 to. That'll be a good start. So I said, like, what do you want to do? And what's your last slide? And we talked about this. And so he changed the last slide to this. How can we help you first? Was the title. There's a benefit. How can we help you first? And he had 3 boxes. And he said, would you like a free audit? It said in box 1. We'll have a look at your telephony spend. And the middle box said, would you want dummy data? So we'll put some stuff through your system. Or the third box said, something else. So he said at the end, so basically, in our experience, at the end of this, people either want this, or they want this, or it's something else. I mean, which of those sounds interesting to you? And he said he used that every time, and every time he did, it always prompted a conversation, because either the clients will say, I'll have that one, please, in which case you've got your next step, or they'll say, well, something else, in which case you'd say, what would you advise that is? It's a phrase, if someone was to walk in the room now and hadn't heard what I previously said, this would sound weird, but I love BO. I love it. We run through again, there's one little thing just to draw your attention. You say the benefit, then you state as non-negotiable the thing they might have negotiated. So when I say to Maya, it's time for your favourite story, do you want to go to bed or not? That's not, I don't want those options. I say, it's time for your favourite story upstairs. So do you want to go to bed now or in 5 minutes? I don't mind. So the upstairs becomes non-negotiable. If you want 5 minutes with your boss, I know a few of you got your bosses here, so the bosses afterwards will come and say, oh, thanks a bloody lot for this. If you go to your boss and say, hey boss, can I have 5 minutes now, yes or no? But if you say to the boss, hey boss, I know you're super busy, but I've got this proposal to get out through the door. It's worth a lot of money, but I could just do with 5 minutes input from you. Do you want me to have a look at it now, or shall I pop back in half an hour? I don't mind. Did you get this? You sound quite nice. What are you really saying? You're bloody seeing me. Now, the interesting thing is some people like that, and some people think, no, I don't really like that. I mean, it doesn't do any harm, to be honest, if you say to some, what restaurant would it be like if you went and said, it's steak or nothing? Like, not good. Options are a good thing. Just because you don't offer them now, some of you, doesn't mean it's a bad thing. If you bought a proposal with you, have a quick look. Did you say, do you want it or not, or have you given them two choices? If you've got a presentation, look at your last slide. Is there a call to action? Is it do it or not, or are there choices? It's dead powerful stuff. However, when I share this exercise with some people, they don't like it, particularly lawyers. They don't like this at all. I think they think if they're going to say, do you want X or Y, they're going to be sued or something. So therefore, I say to them, you should go for a no. And of course they say, what do you mean by that? And I say, well, what you do is this. You ask a question with a negative word in it. So if someone replies no to a negative, it becomes a positive. So you say something like, towards the end of the meeting, do you think there's any reason why we shouldn't progress this? Or you say to one of your colleagues, is there any reason we can't start using Andy's afters table in our discussions? Now, I think there's only two answers to, is there any reason we shouldn't progress this? I think that's yes or no. If they say no, you say, great, let's get started. Now or in 5 minutes, or whatever you do. So there's no negatives. There's no negatives. That's good. So one question I ask a lot is I say, so I feel comfortable about this. I don't have any concerns, but can I just check, have you got any concerns? That's a negative word. If they say no, I say, great, well, let's crack on then. If they say yes, I don't think, shit, I was hoping they didn't have any. Yeah? When they say they've got concerns, I say, I'm glad I asked, what are they? Is there any reason we might not be able to do this? Yeah, I'm not quite sure we've got budget. Oh, I'm glad I asked, let's have a chat about that. Is there any reason we can't do this? Yeah, we've already got a marketing agency we've been using for years. Oh, I'm glad I asked, can we have a chat about that? Now, I really like this because you get one of two very, very good outcomes. They either say, no, I've got no negatives, carry on. Or they say, yes, I have got concerns, and you can now deal with them. Sometimes people say to me, yeah, but if they mention them, and I go, yeah, but just because they didn't mention them before doesn't mean they weren't thinking about them. And my final one is this. Advice. People are extremely wedded to things they've come up with themselves, and they're not as wedded to things I've come up with. So if I say, shall we do X or Y, they could say neither, so I say, what do you recommend, what do you advise, and they go Z. They'll be more wedded to Z than they ever would have been if I'd said Z. Any reason we can't do this? Yeah, there is actually. All right, so what's that? Well, price. So how would you advise we overcome that? So advice is a good thing, or you can go straight to advice. I have a 15-year-old boy called Jack, and I got him to tidy his bedroom using advice. And if I can get Jack to tidy his bedroom, you can convince anyone to do anything at all. And I said this to him, Jack, can I ask your advice about something? He said, yeah, what? I said, well, when I was your age, my dad, your granddad, used to tell me to tidy my bedroom. And I used to think, back off, it's my room. Now, as I become older and I'm actually turning into granddad, I want you to tidy your bedroom. But before you say anything, I know you're thinking, back off, it's my room. So this seems a bit of an insolvable thing to me. It's I pay for the mortgage, but it's your room and it's your space, and I respect that, but I think it's too untidy. So I can't work out how we can fix this so we're both happy. I wonder what your advice would be. And he was silent. And then he said, well, you'll have to get used to it, Dad. Well, it's not quite gone as planned. So I said, well, I could, but obviously that's not quite fair because da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So let's try someone else. So if that wasn't going to work, let's just try someone else. Or do you want me to suggest something? And so he came up with a few more ideas. And we chatted it through as equals, as peers, and he came up with something, and we began to talk it through, and it was fine. And I now got a 15-year-old boy who's like any other 15-year-old boy, except he tidies his bedroom. Why? Because he came up with it. All right? So let's say you're in meeting one with a particular client, and you're saying, now I've enjoyed our conversation so far. How would you advise we progress things? So you're not saying, should we meet on Tuesday or Wednesday? Please say one. You're saying, how would you advise we progress things? I think there's only two answers. They'll either say something you're happy with or something you're not. If it's something you're happy with, you say, great, let's go. If it's something you're not happy with, like, well, you have to get used to it, Dad, you say, well, of course we could. Definitely consider that. Just one thing that sprung to my mind, but they're now more likely to listen to your idea because... One of my favourite closing questions, actually, is to say, how soon would you advise we start? It's fucking brilliant. There's only two answers for that, either soon or three answers. Soon, not soon, or never, get out. But I'm not going to ask that if we're at never. So it's either soon or not soon. If they say soon, I say, great, let's get diaries out. If they say not soon, I say, well, of course we can do that. Can I just check? I'm very happy with that. Can I just check why you don't want it sooner? Because I've got capacity to start now if you want me to. That's fine, but I just want to check. Let's have a look at the rule of do no harm. If you say to someone, this will help you export into Belgium, do you want to do X or Y? Could it do any harm? If you say any reasons that we can't progress this, could it do any harm? If you say to somebody, how would you advise we take this forward? Can it do any harm? I've yet to see any of these do any harm ever. And sometimes they might just work. So do you remember how I said the difference between an idea and an action? At the minute, that's a lovely idea. I want to turn it into action for you. And the way you turn an idea into action is you think when you're first going to do it. So can I ask you to think who you're talking to either tonight when you get home or tomorrow morning, and think, who am I seeing soon that I want to persuade to do something? So think tonight or tomorrow morning, who am I talking to? I want to persuade them. And I want you to think which of these three you're going to use, and more importantly, how you're going to phrase it. So I actually want you to almost script the words you're going to use. Scripting is not super fast. I'm going to give you 3-4 minutes for this. So think, who am I seeing? What do I want to do? What words is going to come out of my mouth to get them to do it. Pair off if you want. I always like talking to other people. They're cleverer than me. Is that him there, do you think? Is that Spillane? Is there someone called Mr. Spillane here? Is this your son on this photo? There you go. Right, ladies and gents. Is that enough time? Do you want more time? I don't mind.
I want to go to bed and read a story.
Yeah, he just wants to go to bed to read a story. That's not quite the main message. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you're doing something now which, in my experience, is virtually the most important skill anyone in sales can master, and that is scripting persuasive things to say. There are 4 things that drive behaviour. External, someone says you need to lose weight. Internal, I want to lose weight. Imagination, I could see myself losing weight. What's the thing that drives whether we pick the cake up or not? Habit. The only way I've ever found for salespeople to change how they behave, the habits involved when they're in meetings in times of stress, is to script in advance what they're going to say when it matters and practice it a lot. Otherwise, in times of stress, you'll say what you said last time, even if it didn't work. If you, times of stress, because you've not left enough time to write a proposal, you'll copy last week's, even if it didn't win. Yeah, we are creatures of habit. It's not your fault. Habits are good things, but we're creatures of habit. You have no chance of permanently changing how you do stuff unless you script stuff and practice it. One of our clients, a big, bloody, massive blue chip, serious sales these guys make, multi-million pounds every time. I've got them into this whenever they talk about stuff. I can hear them going, script and practice, script and practice, script and practice, script and practice, because it's so wedged in. They've got to script and practice, script and practice, script and practice. There's various things you should script and practice. How are you going to start a meeting so it starts well? Yeah? If it doesn't start well, what's going to happen? Rubbish. You've got to script and practice, how are you going to end so it ends well? If you don't, at 11:59 you go, oh, bye! You know, have any of you ever had the occasional objection, like price or whatever? No? Heard that before? Do you know how you'll respond to it next time? Probably exactly what you said last time, whether it works or not. And what's the only way to improve how you respond to these things? Script and practice, script and practice, script and practice, script and practice. All right.
You almost have to do it for each customer.
Absolutely.
The
Yeah.
higher the ticket price, the more specific you have to be.
Absolutely. And if you want to be super good, you can almost raise the objection before they even ask it. I mean, we'll talk about this later on, but if you know someone's worried about price, you can say, you know, at some point we'll have to talk about price because it's, you know, essential to both of us. This is a really good investment for you. So do you want to talk about it now or in a bit? When's best for you? You sound really nice, but you've taken charge of the price discussion. And don't think you're making things worse. It was going to come up. And if the first time they see the price is in the proposal and you're not there to control it, that's not good. I think I'd much rather control price. I feel a bit awkward having a price discussion, I'll be honest, but I feel really awkward spending 3 hours writing the sodding thing that when they see the number for the first time, they think, well, if I'd known it was that, I never would have talked to him. Is that fair? It doesn't mean it's easy, but it's the least worst. I don't want to spend 3 hours doing something that was never going to work. Scripts and practice, scripts and practice, scripts and practice. If I have a 1-hour meeting, I thought you'd be interested to know how I finish meetings. If you like this, script and practice, script and practice. Script it, say it out, practice, not in your head, out loud, in your bedroom, say it loads of times, like 20, 30, 40 times, till it sounds like you. And you'll begin to edit it as you say it out loud, and it becomes natural. Without fail, I finish meetings like this. Why do I always use the same thing at the end of meetings, you think? Yeah, because it works. Yeah? Now, this suits me and my personality. It might not suit you. I'm not saying script and practice my stuff. I'm saying script and practice yours. But if you like this, happy days. So here's how to close a meeting. You'll get a copy of these slides, but I know sometimes people like to write things down as they cover it. Just out of interest, if you have a 1-hour meeting, when do you normally start closing it off to make sure there are next steps? So minute what? 60. 45 is what I do, with 15 minutes to go. For 2 reasons. Firstly, it means I'm in control of the close. And secondly, nobody else does it that way. Doesn't mean you should, but I find this works for me. And if I'm meeting you at 11 o'clock, at 11:45-ish, I can virtually guarantee I will say this. I'm conscious of time. What does every person do when I say I'm conscious of time? Look at the watch. So who's now got control of the meeting? Me. Now, this is what I call a bridging sentence, because one of the things, if you're having a chit-chat with a client and you want to get to the close, if you don't know how to bridge from chatting to closing, you go, oh, how do we stop talking? Oh, shit, oh, God, bye! And you leave. So if you don't like unconscious time, think of something else. So you might say, can I just ask one quick question? Or, there's something troubling me. Or, do you know something? It doesn't matter what it is, just something that breaks it. So I say I'm conscious of time. I don't say I'm conscious of your time. I say I'm conscious of time. Why don't I say I'm conscious of your time? Because subservient. That's right. I am. And so my latest book's called Top Dog, and by that, what I mean is they're a top dog and I'm a top dog. We are equal. I am their top dog. I am not their bitch. So I'm not going to say things like, oh, thank you so much for sparing the time to see me. I know you're so important. Thank you so much for fitting me in. I would have actually trampled over, shattered glass on the floor just to see your shoes. Just not doing it. So when they say things like, I'm busy, I'll say, yes, so am I. What's your point? If they say something like, well, the only thing that matters is our budget, if I say, yes, you're right, it means they've got the power. I don't want the power. I don't want to be better than them, but I don't want to be subservient. If they say we need to check the budget, I'll say, great, well, I think there's 2 things that matter. It's your budget and my diary. So if you want to go and check your budget, I'll check my diary, and then we can circle back and we see if we can make it work. So I'm not giving them the power of their budget decides. It's only a tiny thing, but it means that I'm never thinking, please do this, because it's a joint peer-to-peer thing. I'm conscious of time, our time, because we're both brilliant. And he'll see what I say, oh, okay, only 45 minutes, all right. And I say, my understanding is so far we've agreed that. Yep, have I got that right? So I do a really brief summary. Now, if I've been using our afters table, I might say something like, so my understanding is we've agreed the 2 things that matter here are saving you some time and also reducing your costs. Have I got that right? Are these the main priorities? Now, I think there's only one of 2 things they can say to that, which is yes, you're right, or no, you're wrong. If they say yes, you're right, so well, I'm glad I checked. If they say no, you're wrong, what do you think I'll say? I'm glad I checked. So at no point am I scared because I know what's going to come next. No point am I scared. I don't think, shit, close. I just talk it. Then, so to progress this, and then I use one of the 3 persuasion tools on the previous slide. So to progress this, I might do the BO. I guess we could do this or this. Which you want? Or so to progress this, well, actually, is there any reason why we shouldn't progress? Or so to progress this, well, what would you advise? I don't know how to stand at a jaunty angle when I say, what do you advise? But look at this, ladies and gents. Both of us have got to have actions. I am not their bitch. If you end a meeting and you've got 6 actions and they've got none, the odds of you winning the price negotiation in a couple of weeks is low. So one of the things you might say is this. So when it comes to proposal, obviously I have to write the proposal, so I'll say, so I'll do the proposal. And obviously we need to speak afterwards, we need to get that in the diary. I just wonder what you think you might be able to do while I'm writing the proposal, so assuming you like it, we can move quickly. Because I'm closing this after 45 minutes, I've got 50 minutes of this chat. And if you don't like what I'm saying, you don't have to use what I'm saying. But you have to know what you're going to say, or what will you say tomorrow? What you said yesterday? What if it didn't work yesterday?
What about tomorrow?
Yeah, habits. And then my final two questions are, cool, when should we meet again? And depending on the company I'm selling to, I might end up with, and who else needs to be there? Then as I stand, I use the past tense and say, I've really enjoyed our meeting. Why do I use the past tense? Yeah, because it's done. I've enjoyed the meeting. I don't say, I'm enjoying the meeting, let's keep going. I've enjoyed the meeting. Because they've agreed to do this. I know when we're next meeting, I've not got to reignite it when I leave. I know who else needs to be there. We both got actions, so we're both top dogs, not I'm their bitch. We've agreed what we're looking to achieve. We're kind of happy. And do you know what? If you do this, it rarely takes 15 minutes. It often takes 5 or 6. But how many times do you think someone has said to me, how dare you give me 7 minutes of my day back? Yeah? Sometimes this is the only chance they have to go to the toilet because they've got back-to-back meetings all the time. So remind me, am I advising you have to use my script? No, but you do have to know yours. I'm going to show you one more script because it's so important. This is the one that generates a third of our business by doing virtually nothing. Whenever I finish, do you remember Drayton said before, it's easier to sell to people who already like you than strangers? Do you remember that? Yeah. So when you finish a piece of work, I would strongly advise you say to people, really enjoy working with you. Are you happy how it's gone? They say yes. And then I say, cool. Hey, how else can we help? Now, in the rule of first do no harm, tell me what harm that will do. None. In fact, I think you'll do harm not to ask that because you don't want to help anymore. I think there are only 3 answers to how else can I help you. What are the 3 answers they could give, do you think?
Get back to you.
Yes, no, maybe. Yeah, get back to you. If they say that, don't have that. We'll talk about that in a second. Yes, no, and maybe. Yes, you can. No, you can't, or I've no idea. If you say, how else can I help? They say, well, yes, you can actually. You say, oh, really? That high? Got to say it that high. Really? Tell me more about that. Really? Tell me more. By the way, gentlemen, they say tell me more is the most important 3 words a man can learn in a relationship. Now, I'm quoting this. Let me just tell you why. They say the male brain is wired to finding solutions to things. So if my wife says to me, oh, I've had a dreadful day today, I argued with Sarah, as a man, I think I'm showing care by offering a solution she hasn't asked for. And I'll say, oh, Emma, that sounds dreadful. Let me tell you what you want to do. And she will say, why you tell me what to do? And I'll say, because I'm helping. And she'll say, you're not helping, you're interfering. I've not asked for a solution. So I'm saying, well, why you tell me then? I felt awful today. I thought I was going to have to do a presentation. You need to come on one of my courses. It's not what they want to hear. All right? So, according to research, what I'm supposed to say is, oh, it was a bit of awkward today. Sarah and me had an argument. Oh, you're joking. What happened? Tell me more. Well. Really? That sounds awful. Then what? Well. And then comes the ninja move, gents. Write this down. I then say, how did you feel about that? I'll tell you how I felt about that. Oh, tell me more about it. And then after a bit, and she's maybe talked herself out some, MSPA's here. This is these 4 walls, okay? These 4 walls, this conversation. I sometimes think she's caught me out doing one of me tell me more things and I'm in big bloody trouble. But what she never does, and what she'll say at the end is she'll say, I'm there thinking, oh God, I'm in trouble here. And she goes, I'm really glad we've had this chat. So am I. Seriously, blokes, tell me more. Tell me more, all right? I've had a bad day at the office. That sounds awful. Tell me more. I'm telling you, I'm not joking. Write this down. Forget this sales shit. That's the live thing. I don't like the photographic evidence of me doing this particular story. So leave. How else can I help you? Well, I don't really know. Now, I suppose you could go, no, shit, I was hoping you'd say yes. So, scripts and practice, scripts and practice. This is my script. If you like it, use it. If not, choose your own. How else can I help you? Well, I don't really know. Well, just out of interest, do you want to hear what some of our most successful customers are finding useful? I don't mind. First, do no harm. Don't forget, this is not minute 1 of meeting 1. This is, we've already done the work. It's already worked. They've already got the afters. They already think I'm ace. I've asked, did you enjoy the work? Is everything going well? And they say, how else can I help you? So I don't really know. So, well, neither do I, but just out of interest, do you want to hear what other stuff I'm working on? Would that be interesting? What do you think everyone always says? Yeah, go on. I'm going to talk about whatever I want. 1/3 of our business comes from this. 1/3. And, of course, some people say, well, I've not got time for this, Andy. And I say, without trying to sound smug, time's not about time, it's about priority. And actually, you have got time because you were finishing the meeting anyway saying goodbye. You're now saying, how can I help? In fact, little blue line coming here, if appropriate, I've sometimes done that. So say I've spoken at a conference, which is very much a discrete purchase, like, you know, they bought this thing, I'm on stage, I've done my bit, talk to all their staff, and they say, right, go away. If I say, how else can I help? Quite often the conference organiser will say, well, don't you can really, because the conference is over. So, yeah, that's fine, I thought you'd say that. I would have said that if I was you, but do you mind if I check something? Now, they could say, and some could say, no, it's all right, thanks. So I get thanked. They don't say, no, sod off. So I want you to have a look at these last 2 slides about the level of scripting I'm doing. This is word for word, this. This is word for word, and I say it out loud so it matters. So if you are dreading someone saying, oh, put it in writing, give us a proposal, you've got to script and practice what to say to that, or you'll bottle it in the meeting. You'll walk past the cake thinking, I'm a winner, I'm actually not a winner, I'll just eat the cake, and then I'll go. That's what happens in Starbucks. I've asked people who work in Starbucks, I found this really interesting. When you go to Starbucks and they say, like, you know, would you like a cake? If you notice, they always say that, and they always actually do this. They always go, would you like a cake? And what they do is they always ask you twice. So the thing Drayton was saying this morning. So do you want a cake? You go, no, it's all right, thanks. And they go, yes, that's it! And they go, are you sure? Go, oh, fuck it. I'll go on then, that's fine. Actually, and I'll have a biscuit while I'm on it. And you think, well, that's got no calories because I said no twice. That's how it works. It's like hoovering up kids' food, no calories. Scripts and practice, scripts and practice, scripts and practice, scripts and practice. I don't know why I've got any more statesman's-like for this next thing. I'd be interested in your thoughts on these 2 scripts. So we've got this idea here, and then the previous one was that. That's what I do to close a meeting in general. And there's 2 things I want you to notice. Firstly, I know what I'm going to say, and secondly, I've thought about what their response can be, and I know what I'm going to say to each of their responses. So if I say, I'm conscious of time, I know the responses, they'll look at their watch. They're not going to say, oh, are you? You know? Why aren't you listening to me? If I say my understanding is this, yes or no, they can only say yes or no. So it's almost like I've got a flow chart in my mind of how the conversation can go. Yeah, and we have a look at this. So to progress this, I mean, well, what would you advise we do? All right, so I'll do a proposal, but do you mind if I ask you to do something just to get the ball rolling at your end, assuming you like the proposal? Would that be fair? Using the word fair is very good. It's very hard for someone to say, no, I'd rather be unfair. Yeah? So one of our clients, again, who Jack's used to work for, who has very proposals are based on themselves a bit. It was really interesting because the guy who was my purchaser there said, when I first sent the proposal, he said, that sounds fine, but we want you to reduce the cost a bit. I said, that's absolutely fine. What part of my proposal do you want me to take out? And he goes, no, I want all the proposal, but I want you to reduce the price. I said, well, I can. Do you think that's fair? He went, no. And I said, well, why would I do that then if it's not fair? So I can take some stuff out or we can just pay that what you want. And I loved his response to his Alan. He went, oh, fuck it, all right. Maybe cut that from the video, I think, probably. There. No. It's when it got good. And that's what I say at the end of every single thing. I actually go so far as to say is, I think it's very, very poor customer service if you don't do this. I don't think this is an optional extra. I think good customer service people say, are you happy how it went? Yes or no. If it's a no, fix it. If it's yes, I'm dead pleased to hear it. How else can we help? Why would you not ask that of a customer?
Andy, have you ever, well, you said this reaps benefits, a third of the business comes from this. Have you ever had a situation where the tone and the relationship has changed as a result because suddenly they perceive you differently as a result of asking that in a more negative way?
I haven't. But that's because these words suit my personality. So the fact you've asked might mean some of those might not feel comfortable to you or whatever. If these don't feel quite right, you don't say it. And if you think they might do harm, please don't say it. My golden rule is if you think everything I say might do harm, don't do any of it. I'm not trying to make things worse. But I've yet to find someone say to me, you money-grabbing bastard, when I say, how else can I help? Yeah? In my experience, but that's...
They might say, well, we've got other suppliers that do that.
Yeah, well, that's okay. Because, do you know what? I've heard that before, and how do you think I knew what to say in response, everyone? Script and practice, script and practice, script and practice. So I used to be very worried. When I started my business, I was talking to this lady before and a couple of other people who've got a relatively new business. And one of the questions you'll be asked, and I used to dread hearing, is when somebody says, yeah, but have you worked in our sector before? And I was thinking, oh no, I hate this. I can't answer it. I used to dread it, I used to hate it. And then I spent ages scripting and practicing, and I'd say it out loud, said it out loud, said it out loud, said it out loud, and eventually the right answer came. So when someone says now, just out of interest, if you worked in our sector before, I always go, fortunately not, no. I go, why is that fortunate, dickhead? I say, well, don't worry, I've not got any allegiance to any of your competition. Is that why you asked? It's fucking brilliant, you know that. And when they say things like, well, no, I need to know if you... Well, I say, well, obviously, learning about new sectors is part of the job. All I need is for you to introduce some of your people to talk to some of my people. We get up to speed quite quickly. I mean, that's not the issue. The issue is here, can I help your people sell to the people they want to sell to? Well, I've helped thousands of people sell to customers you want to reach through the other sectors. It doesn't matter. Do you have to use my scripts? Nope. You have to know yours? Yep. In fact, there's a slide I prepared specially for today. Let me see what slide number it is. I really like this slide. It's the first time it's had an official airing. It's on slide 14. Removing what you and they dread. So what I do is I think of, I really hope you like this slide. It took the designers like about 4 hours to do. And in the end, you'll think, why did that take 4 hours? But it's ace. Here we go. Have I bigged this up too much? Big this up? Okay. Look at him, bless him. It's good, that, isn't it? You think of all the things that you dread hearing. So I do this in a 3-column table. So if this was the happy table of all the happy afters you want, I think, what do I dread hearing? I dread hearing someone say, we've not got budget. I dread someone saying, can you do anything about price? I dread someone saying, write me a proposal, don't darken my door again. I dread someone saying, I feel I've been sold to here. I dread someone saying, you're making me feel uncomfortable. I dread someone saying, so I just list every single thing I could possibly dread. And then, I want to share something I think is quite interesting. You think you dread them asking it because that's the thing you dread. That's not the case. The thing you dread is you don't know how to answer it. Yeah, so you dread the rabbit in headlights. Oh, I hate it when price comes up. That's what you dread. It's the rabbits in headlights thinking, oh no! And if you haven't done script and practice, how will you respond this time? Same as last time, because of habits. So you think what you dread, and then you script how you're going to respond. Now, in my experience, the way to sound natural is to say it out loud 10, 15, 20 times. So trust me, when someone said, if you worked in our sector before, I didn't go straight to fortunately not no. It didn't start like that. I said, well, thanks for asking. That's a very good question. Other people have felt the same. But what I found, the felt, found, feel thing. So I played with it and I carried on saying it out loud and I role played it and all this sort of stuff. If you don't like role play, call it practicing when it doesn't matter so you don't cock it up when it does. That's what a role play is. Right? And I scripted it. So let's say there's 10 things you dread and you list them in the left-hand side, and then what you do is you think, what could I say in response? I always like having 2 or 3 answers. If someone talks about price, I might say, oh, why'd you say that? And you go, what do you mean, why do I say that? Or why'd you say it's too expensive? Because I want to find out what's wrong with the thing. If they say something's too expensive, I say, oh, what are you comparing it to? Or if they say it's too expensive, I say, well, it depends what you compare it to. You just told me every new sale's worth £500,000 here. Why are we talking about price? I'm trying to not give the game away here, but if you look at my website, you'll see which bank this was. There was a bank, I'll give you a clue. Their name rhymes with Narcliss. And I helped them win a deal that's worth £2.6 billion. It's on the website. It's my favourite testimony. Well, obviously, Drayton's is my favourite testimony. The second favourite testimony is Barclay saying, we just won a deal worth £2.6 billion because we did what Andy Bound said. That's quite cool. I like that. And I nearly didn't work with them because when I put my proposal in, they said, thanks very much for this, Andy, but could you just do anything about price? So I said, which I thought was quite a good answer, yeah, put it up. Which I thought was quite a good answer. And they said, well, no. And I said, well, this is worth £2.6 billion. Why are we even talking about that? They went, oh, yeah. Fair enough. And so, but can you see what's happening is, the reason I'm able to be persuasive on my outside is because I've persuaded myself on the inside. You know the L'Oreal, because you're worth it. So I think I'm worth it. So I think if someone is going for a deal that's worth 2.6, but I can't remember what I charged them. Say it was 40 grand for what worked out to be, say, 10 hours work or something. Like 40 grand for 10 hours work, I don't know what the numbers were. Sounds quite a lot if you look at an hourly rate, but my word, it's piddly compared to 2.6 billion. Yeah, so I think if I'm helping someone win a deal worth 2.6 billion, I think I'm worth 40 grand. And if I could do it in 3 minutes, that'd be fine. In fact, one of our clients, very successful guy, he was helping someone, their company was going to be taken over, and there was nothing they could do about it, and he came in to do some negotiating, as a result of which the price changed, which meant that his personal buyer got £1 million more in his pocket as a result of my client's intervention. Yep. And then, because of this, he got paid £50,000 for what resulted in 3 minutes' work. So my client got paid 50 grand for doing 3 minutes' work, which resulted in his client getting an extra $1 million. And that was in the days when people used to write cheques. So when his client was writing the cheque for 50 grand, he was saying, I can't believe I'm giving you this for 3 minutes' work. And Julian said, oh, sorry, would you like me to take longer? How cool is that? All right. So you get what you're dreading, you then script it, but if you want to go to this next level, I prefer this third column because this is where you get super good. This is what I call ninja level. Look at him. He looks alarmingly like me, actually, now I have a look at this. What ninja level is this. If somebody says, but have you got any experience of our sector? And you script it with, fortunately not, no. And then you deal with it, that's okay. But a super ninja would say something which meant this thing wasn't even asked about at all. The best analogy I've seen for this is Yap Stam. Have you heard of Yap Stam, any of you? No. Used to be a defender for Manchester United, my team. living in Liverpool. If you want to test your sales skills, do that. So, all United fans used to love Jaap Stam, and Alex Ferguson sold him, and he since said it was one of his biggest mistakes. Jaap Stam, brilliant defender. But he said one of the reasons Ferguson sold him was because I had a look at Jaap Stam's stats, and as he got more and more experienced in the Premier League in England, he was making less and less tackles. Now, he's a defender, so he should be making tackles, so the number of tackles he was making was going down. So Ferguson saw this, and by his own admission said, and I just thought he was getting too lazy. Making less tackles, should be making tackles. And then we sold him. And what happened was, United started conceding loads and loads of goals. So Ferguson analysed the thing again, and he realised the reason that Jaap Stam was making less and less tackles was because he was reading the game better, so he was able to intercept the ball before he had to make a tackle. Does that make sense? So he didn't need to do the crunching tackle because he avoided the need for the tackle. And I thought, what a great analogy for salespeople with objections. Because when somebody says, you haven't worked in our sector, that's a bit like a tackle and you need to deal with it, but a ninja would intercept that before it came there. So they would say things like, if I was you, I might be concerned that I haven't worked in the sector before. Do you mind if I check if that's something you're concerned about? They can only say yes or no. If they say yes, I'm glad I asked, and deal with it. If they say no, I'm glad I asked, just wanted to check. Or if you don't like if I was you, try this one, it's a belter. Can I just check something? Some of my most successful customers now, when they first met me, they were worried about a couple of things. Do you mind if I check to see if you are too? What's the only answer to that? What is it? And then you raise them. Ninja stuff. Now, why does that work, the phrase successful customers? Why do people like hearing that? Why is a customer like this? Say again? Yeah, putting them in the same bracket. It's flattery, because you're successful. The other word that's key in there is the word customers. What it does is it shows somebody else overcame this concern, and they're successful now. So there's a bit of, and they could. I'll just leave that with you. Some of you might not like these phrases. Do I think you should use my phrases? No. Do I think you should know yours? Absolutely. Scripts and practice, scripts and practice. And then this is probably the best animation on any slide ever. If you're dreading this stuff, I don't want to big this up, but check this out. If you're dreading this and you've scripted your answer and then you've worked out how to ninja it and maybe you get rid of a couple of these things so no one needs to worry about it, well, all of a sudden, look at him smiling. You don't even dread it anymore. Geek heaven it was, doing this slide apparently. Geek heaven.
Just on that, we used to have a list of all the possible objections, like you said, and the top 5 we put actually in the presentation and brought it out right at the front and said, look, we know you're going to be worried about these things. That's what all our customers felt. Exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
So we raised it right out there.
Yeah. And did it ever make things worse? No, of course not. No. No? Everything I'm talking about here is about making little changes. We're going to finish off with the 3 steps. I said I was going to put them all together, so we're going to do a big summary thing, but we're not going to do that unless we're good at making little changes. So I want to see how good you are at making little changes by doing a little exercise with you. Please, can I ask you all to stand up and partner off with someone who's not next to you at the minute? Everyone stand up, partner off with someone who's not next to you at the minute. Okay, everyone? Have you all got a partner? If you haven't, get one. This only works in 2s. If you're in a 3, find someone who's on their own and looking for love. Okay, now I want to practice how good you are at making little changes. So I'm going to talk into the microphone a bit just so you can hear me over the noise. So all I want you to do as a couple is to count to 3. It's as simple as that. You're going to count to 3, and after a bit you're going to start doing little changes, which I'll explain later. But the way you count to 3 is this. So if this is one person, this is the other person. Someone says 1, the other person says 2, then the first person says 1, and then the second person says... So he goes like this, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So you speak alternately, say one number, whatever the next number is. 1, 2, 3. And as you get good at this, I want you to make a little change so it ends up being loud and fast. So in the end, you're shouting in each other's face, going 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Super fast, super loud, off you go. Right, everyone, let's stop that. Okay, stop. How hard is that? Right, okay. Everything about what Drayton and I have done today is about making little changes. So quite good what you've done, but I want you to make some little changes. You're going to do it again, like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. But to practice little changes, when it's your turn to say 3, I don't want you to say 3. I just want you to do one clap. So you're going to be 1, 2, 1, 2. So if it was your turn to say 3, you just would do one clap, but keep doing. Okay, off you go. All right, everyone, let's... Oh, that's brilliant. So, I don't know how that feels to you. It looks good from up here. I think we need a bit more practice. I mean that nicely. So we're going to do it again. When it's your turn to say 1, say 1. When it's your turn to say 3, you're still going to clap. But this time, instead of 2, I just want a brief nod of your head. So you can be 1, 1. Off you go. Okay, let's stop that one there. You guys are really good at this. It's so good. Let me tell you a couple of things which are quite funny. I've heard someone say 4. There's somebody, I don't think they know this, they can't clap without nodding. It's quite interesting. So one final thing, because you're getting better, but it needs to make little changes, because getting selling better is just little changes. Scripts and practice, just little changes. So don't tell your partner, but I want you to, don't tell your partner the answer to this. Think of an animal. Don't tell your partner, think of an animal. Okay, fine. I want you to go back in pairs. You're still going to nod on 2. You're still going to clap on 3, but this time instead of 1, I want you to make your animal noise. Off you go. Right, everyone, well done. Have a sit down. That was brilliant. Well done. Really good. Well, that was really good. I did. Yeah, I'm going to invoke that. Get me money back, mate. It's when I did that exercise in Ireland. I'm not very good at doing accents at all, but when I said, right, make your animal noise, off you go, and I heard someone say to his neighbour, like, what noise does a fucking penguin make? That was quite funny. There we go. So let me talk about some of the things you said you wanted to cover. We talk about putting benefits in a compelling way. That's what someone said. That's what the afters and the why that good. You know, the afters and why is that good table? That's a compelling way. Which of those are the most compelling? Well, I don't know. So we have to ask what the priorities are. And we'll get some good questions in a second. 3 people asked how to close. Well, we talked about closing meetings. We talked about closing when you finish your job. How else can I help you? We talked about closing with persuading, like the yes, no, and the advice. So we've done quite a lot of stuff. The main answer to how to close is scripts and practice, scripts and practice. If you don't, you'll do what you did last week. People have talked about how to build trust and longevity. I think that how else can I help you is pretty useful. The other thing which is very useful is to think of the 2 words no and o. What I mean by no and o is people are very motivated to keep buying from you if they know you and they owe you. Now, it's basic rules of human psychology. If they know you and trust you, and every time they speak to you, you always give them something useful, that gets a lot of loyalty from people. So I have a very simple I like tables, as you can see. I think of all my main contacts. I think, how do they know me? Well, I have a little, do you call it a mnemonic, initial letters? KITE stands for keep in touch every. You know, there are some people I should keep in touch with every month, really. Some people are once every 3 months. So if there are some people I should keep in touch with every month, then what I do is I have a recurring monthly diary entry which says, don't forget to speak to so-and-so. And I've got about 50 monthly people, so I just have them every now and again. If I don't do that, I'll only ring them when I want something. And if I did that, they'd start thinking, bloody hell, Andy Bounds is on the phone, he wants something. Used to have a bank manager like that. Hence the word used. And then I think, what can I do so they owe me? Doesn't have to be a big thing. Just send them something they'll find useful, give them a bit of feedback about something, introduce them to somebody. So if I speak to people enough and every time they speak to me they get some value from me, that's a good way to build trust and longevity. Someone asked before about getting referrals. Here's a good way to get referrals. Instead of how else can I help, you say, who else can I help? Are you happy with the work we've done? Yeah, been brilliant. I'm really pleased to hear it. Anything else we can do, or are we done? No, we're done. It's good. Hey, listen, who else do you know who'd find the work we've done quite useful? The only answers are somebody, nobody, or I don't know. If they say somebody, I'm going to say, tell me more. If they say, I don't know, I say, well, do you want to hear about some sectors who tend to find me useful? And if you don't like that, you don't have to use my words. Right, so let's have a look. Proposals that win. Remind me, what's the best way of creating a proposal that the client is probably going to look at? Ask them what they want in it, yeah? So the overriding rule is ask them what they want in it. Now, sometimes they'll give you good, clear guidance, and sometimes, with respect, what they want is no use. So we then need to know what a good proposal will look like. In my experience, these are the 5 things that go in a proposal, or should go in a proposal. If you like this, copy it down. If you don't, ignore it. But in my experience, you need all these. Okay? Firstly, to remind you, you're looking for confirmation of what you've discussed. You're not exploring stuff. All right? If the first time they hear about your wonderful idea is in the proposal, that's not good. If the first time they hear about the price is in your proposal, that's not good. It should be confirming the chat. The first thing to go in, I think, is why it's needed. In other words, what's the problem at the minute? So mine might be something like, I always like saying, as we've agreed. So I might say something like, as we've agreed, your business isn't making the sales it could. This is partly because your salespeople do X, and it's partly because your messaging isn't powerful enough. This document outlines how we can work together to sort both those out.
Andy,
Yep.
say about it shouldn't be the first time that they see the cost. If you only sort of bring along and met them once,
Mm-hmm.
you have to go away and scope it,
Yep.
and then deliver it back to them. Would
Sure.
you squeeze a meeting in between?
Yeah, and it might be a telephone meeting, actually. So when someone says, how much does it cost? If we haven't talked about value yet, I'll always say, well, I don't know yet. I don't know exactly what it is you want. Let me ask some questions, and then I'll do an exact cost for you, and then I'll let you know. All right? Then you find out what you need, you go away and scope it, but you agree with them in the meeting. Let me go and scope it, find the cost, and then I'll give you a buzz, and we'll just have a chat about ballparks. And assuming you're happy with that, then I can write a proposal for you. Is my bias, just because I can't stand the thought of writing a proposal if they haven't talked about price. Yeah? So why it's needed, you'll note it's pretty short. As we've agreed, the world isn't as happy as you want it to be because of this document says I will sort it. The second thing I talk about is the afters. Now, they don't understand the word afters, so I might call it objectives or something corporate. So in there, I'll talk about objectives, but also I'll talk about why it's good. And also I'll put the pound value in there. As we agreed, if we can sort this out, it's worth a couple of £1 million to you. Remind me, why do I want to give very clear black and white value? Yeah, it justifies the cost.
Yep.
Without that, they're the ones who have to do the calculation. Is the black and white cost worth the grey value? And remind me, what's the best way to find out how valuable the client perceives it to be? Ask him. And if you don't know the question, scripts and practice, scripts and practice, scripts and practice. If you care, mine is, what value are you looking for this to bring? And if they say, well, I don't know, I say, well, how do you know it's worth doing? You go, because it will change our lives. You go, well, what value will it be if it changed your lives? You go, well, it's priceless. Think, okay. 2.6 billion, huh? So the afters is, if you like, this is the photo of the world now. It's, black and white, not perfect. This is the beautiful, happy future, the future point. The third section is the timeline. This is how we'll go from the current to the future. Remember the timeline I showed you before? Yeah. Okay. Now I'm going to put the price on now. Obviously we've already discussed the price, but I've got a very important dashed line here. Look at the price. When I put the price on, I want you to remember the price they're paying is for the afters you're giving them. The price they're paying is not for the work you're doing. If I'm buying a website from you, I'm actually not buying a website, I'm buying the extra sales it will generate. In case you're wondering, it's not a coincidence that the orange price box is smaller than the afters box. So in effect, it's this. As we agreed, you're not making the sales you should because of this. This document explains how we'll do it. We've then got a thing called objectives. This is where we want to be at the end, and we've agreed, it's worth this if we get it right. This is how we'll get you from there to there. This is what we're doing. This is what you're doing. As we discussed, we've got a couple of options to do this. One costs 10 grand, one costs 6 grand. Now, the reason I like showing you this, actually, I think it's a great way of showing you the order you should have a sales conversation. So your first thing is, tell me what's going on. What's going well, what's going badly, chit-chat, chit-chat. All right, then, where do you want to be after our work? Da-da-da-da-da, what'll that be worth? All right, let's have a chat about how we can get you there. Right, obviously, it's important we're both happy with the price. Can we talk about that now? Please ask.
Oh, sorry, I've got a quick question in regards to timeline.
Uh-huh.
Types of businesses where timeline doesn't work. For a small, what we do is quite a quick transaction.
Cool. What do you do?
We sell prospect lists.
Okay.
So you'll do proposals for the big organisations for quick transactions.
Right, so talk me through what would happen. So assuming I said yes to you, so I say, right, crack on. What's the first thing I can expect to happen?
So we'd obviously find out all, what you're looking to achieve, your criteria. We would then send you over a quite simple Excel spreadsheet based on your criteria.
Cool. What happens after that?
What's available? We'll quote you. Obviously, you'll get a free trial of the data to test it.
Okay. What happens after that?
Then we'll try and close you. That's essentially it.
Okay. So that's the way the conversation goes. So if I'm the client, so what I mean by the timeline is not your sales process, which I think is what you described to me. The timeline is what it'll look like when I've engaged with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So assuming I engage with you, so you've gone through that process, and I'm going to buy from you, and I da-da-da. So I say, right, I'm now your customer.
Okay.
All right. What's the very first thing I can expect to see after I've signed your?
We receive the data. You'll receive the prospect.
Right. So I receive the data. Then what happens? Or is that it?
No, we'll follow up. We'll try and do it. It depends what you're after. That you might have a sales team of 6 who will need those follow-ups to find out if it's working. And then what the next stage is.
Okay. So what you're saying then is what I would put on the timeline. Yeah. So the timeline, because it doesn't do any harm. If you just say, assuming you say yes, the first thing that happens is we give you the data.
Yeah.
Okay. Secondly, we do a quick training session so your team get it. Thirdly, we'll do this. Fourthly, we'll do this. Fifthly, we'll do that. In other words, the client kind of sees what the next couple of weeks are going to look like. Is what I would do, but it doesn't matter what I would do.
Yeah.
Right? So how can I say this nicely? I don't care if you use a timeline or not. I'm not saying use a timeline or you're selling shit. It's not that. But the question is, would it add to the client's certainty of what they're getting for their money? If it would, put it in. And if it wouldn't, why bother?
Yeah, it's just I'm trying to see if there's actually any value in doing that timeline, but a small transaction like we do with most space.
Small transaction, maybe not. But you know what I would do is I would just ask an existing customer who you got on with, just out of interest, if I'd done this, would you have found it helpful? Because what the client thinks is more interesting than what I think. Like Drayton said, test. I would just do that. Find your busy mate client and ask them.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, no, perfect. Thank you.
There's one thing that's missing from that proposal. It's only the most important thing of all, ladies and gents. Immediate answer, as agreed. Hit reply and confirm your acceptance, and we can crack on. Or, as agreed, I'll ring you Wednesday 10 o'clock and we can discuss. Right, ladies and gents, you're doing super, super well. And I'm conscious you've been sat in this room for a long time. I'm going to run through these 3 steps of selling. Won't take you long. There's nothing new in there at all. Give me 5 minutes. Can you give me 5 minutes? Right? Have you got the energy for 5 minutes? Yeah. How can I say this nicely? Can you tell your face? Okay, very good. Good. Joe, here's an interesting thing. If you're in a... do any of you present standing up, ever? Yeah. Or do you normally present sitting down? Standing up. Okay, let me show you a really interesting thing. Can everyone stand up for me? This is really cool. All right? Now, you know when you do presentations, you can often get a bit nervous. Let me show you a way to look like you're not nervous, even if you are. I'm going to ask you in a second to jump as high as you can 3 times on the trot. So you're going to jump, jump, jump. Now, the only thing is I want you to jump as high as you can, but on the 3rd jump, I'm going to say, stay! And I want you to stay like statues, so don't get back to how you're standing now. You're going to stay however you've landed after the 3rd jump, whatever it is. Okay? So we're going to have 3 jumps. You ready, everyone? 3, go. You ready? 1, 2, right, stay. Now, I want you to feel where your legs are. And I want you to feel how your body is quite well balanced. Okay, put your hands down and breathe out. Some of you, don't we? Okay? Now, if you feel your legs here, I imagine if you look down, your legs are a touch wider apart than normal, some of you. And also you've got the weight slightly on the front of the feet rather than the back. So not like 90-10, maybe sort of 60-40, just a bit. And you have quite a firm base. It's quite hard to sway to the left. It's quite hard to sway backwards. All right, now I want you to put your feet right to the touching. Ankles are touching. Okay, and just want you to sort of sway a little bit. Can you feel it's not the same? The base isn't as strong. Yeah? Now I want you to just rock back on your heels a bit. Okay, and you can feel it's not the same. Okay, have a sit down for me. I'll explain how this works. Now, basically, if you're presenting standing up, people often think it's their hands that betray the nerves, and it can be, but usually it's the feet. Because what happens is if you haven't got your base quite right, then you tend to stand like this, and that's when you can rock around a bit. And if I'm about to give my multi-million-pound contract to someone, it's quite hard to give it to someone who's walking around like this. Yeah? So it's always quite useful just to get your base right. If you're having a meeting, it's quite an interesting one actually. Can I ask you to move your bottoms to the front half of your seat? So not the back, front half of the seat. And now put your feet under your bottom and go on tiptoes. So you're a bit jaunty on your toes. So bounce on your toes a bit for me. Right, now, you all feel ridiculous, I know. Now, the interesting thing, if you have a look around, if you just look around at people, they don't look like they've got a rod up the back, they don't look particularly uncomfortable, but they all look like they've got a bit of energy about them. Now, when you're in a meeting, what often happens, particularly when you get bored in a meeting, you can begin to drop down a bit and you lose your power. Yeah? And you're not as impressive. So a very simple rule with body language, when you're standing up, get your legs right, and when you're sitting down, get your bottom and your feet right. Yeah? So the other thing, if you're worried about your hands, is have a default position. If I'm sitting down, the default position I have is I always lean my arms just on the side of the table, so it's a bit like this. Yeah, so I'm on my toes, so I'm a bit bouncy. And I don't mean they're wedged here. I mean, I might move them around, but I've got the default when I've stopped moving them. Because if you're in the middle of a presentation, people say they're worried about what to do with their hands. They're not normally until they suddenly think, bloody hell, well, look where my hands are. You don't think about your hands until you suddenly think about your hands. So the problem is you don't know where to put them. So if you're sitting down, you've got your bottom on the front half, you're on your sort of tiptoes a bit, and you've got your hands like this, and you talk, and everything's got a bit of energy about it. If you're doing a presentation, you get your feet right, have a default position for your hands. The one that media trainers tell you to do is to have them lightly clasped. Or, like this, praying if you're nervous. Now, a good way to give you confidence this is the right thing to do with your hands is this. Watch the news tonight, and there will be someone on the news who's doing a live broadcast from wherever, and they always walk towards the camera and they say, and they always have their hands in the default, and they move their hands and then they come back. So they say, it's been a fascinating day of interest here. You've seen that happen over there, and you've seen this happen here. And the whole world is wondering this one thing. And they always keep coming back here. Now, when you watch it on the news tonight, you'll notice two things. Number one, oh yeah. And number two, it doesn't look weird. Now, why do I tell you that? Because once you've seen that other people do it, and you never noticed it before I told you to look at it, then when you see it, you'll think, oh, it looks fine. Because again, when we present, we often compare our inside to everybody else's outside. So you look at people on telly, the outside, they look fine. They're probably a bit nervous, actually. But when you present, you've got your own nerves, and you look, well, he looks fine, but I get nervous. Well, you're comparing your inside to his outside. So the way to get your outside right is to get your feet right, know your position for your hands, and just talk with a bit of authority, a bit of life, and a bit of energy. If you want, we could do a day and a half on presentation skills, but I find if you get your feet and your hands right, that's not too bad, actually. Yeah? If you want to be interesting, by the way, think what people find interesting and do that. Stop me if this is too advanced. Yeah? So people find interactivity interesting, so ask questions. People find doing stuff on their own work interesting, so give them opportunities to do that. People like to learn about their own ideas, so ask for people's ideas. Is this all right? Yeah? When you're pitching, it's much better if you have a chat. They enjoy it more, and so do you. So don't just prepare your slides, but also prepare your questions to get them talking. So here are my 3 steps. Any of you have heard me before will probably know these 3 steps. I was very pleased when I came up with them, particularly when I got them beginning with A, B, and C. So it'll be bloody ages to do this, and as you'll know, the B is a stretch when we get there. I woke my wife up to tell her about this ABC thing. Maybe this is why, we're hurtling towards the cliffs of doom. Don't tell her this. So, because I woke her up about 3 o'clock in the morning to say, Emma, I think I've realised what people need to sell more. I've got it really simple. There's only 3 steps. I've got it beginning with A, B, and C. And I think it's going to change their lives and therefore change ours. I'm really excited about this. I think it's amazing. I was so chuffed with it. And she said, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. You're such a wanker.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public announcement.
That's right.
Visitors to spend the last 30 minutes of opening time in the historic rooms, in particular the map room and Mr. Churchill's bedroom, which are the last 2 rooms on the tour. Please speak to a member of staff if you require any further assistance. Get out of bed.
That's so funny that. Who says your wife? Emma Bounds here. Message for Andy. Don't come home. So ABC, you won't believe what the A stands for. Find out their afters. Find out their afters. A really good question to ask has to be about where they want to be after today. What do you think is the best way to make sure you come out with good questions in a meeting? Scripts and practice, scripts and practice, scripts and practice. When do afters happen, in the past or the future? Future. So your questions need to be about the future. So you do a bit about tell me what's going on and what aren't you happy about, and then you say, so what's your end game? Or where do you want to be at the end of our work? Or what impact do you want us to cause? Or what are your goals? I hate that one. Who's the most important stakeholder to impress with this? And how do you want them to describe it? I like that one because most people don't ask that, so it sounds a bit different. There's only so often I feel I can ask, what keeps you awake at night, without sounding like a bit pervy. In Top Dog, my co-author Richard was saying about that he was in a meeting with a very impressive top dog, serious guy, and one of the members of this team, and they barely got any relationship going with this guy. First meeting, and a member of the team said, "And might we ask what keeps you awake at night?" And he said, "At the minute, gentlemen, a very attractive blonde. Now I'm going to have to close this meeting." So you know when you go out like, okay, we are the bitch here. That's not worked well. So you ask loads of questions. My favourite question to ask towards the end of all these afters of course is, if it works, what's it worth? Yeah, let's get a pound sign on this. If you can't give me a pound sign, how do you know it's worth doing? And you break it down. So I love what Drayton said before about basically sales is number of customers times the amount of money they give you, all right, times how long they keep buying from you. So if you're talking to someone about helping them increase sales, you could say, well, are you looking for more customers? Are you looking for a higher price? Are you looking for more retention? So if you could increase it by just 1 or 2%, what would that be worth? You know, you want to get some numbers in there if you can. So you find out about the afters. The end result of that is you know they're interested in row 2 and row 4. Is this all right? Are you happy with this? Make sense? Yeah? Once you find the afters, the final thing I would say is which is the most important one. Let's say, well, the most important is we need to get into Belgium. Where's that going to appear in your proposal? Where's the first place it will appear? Front page. How will help you get into Belgium?
Subject line.
Yeah, subject line of the email. It's going to be in the file name. How Andy Bounds will help us get into Belgium. Probably in the covering email. Delighted to attach our proposal explaining how we're going to get you into Belgium. My fictional company at the beginning, what year was it founded? 1922. People always remember the first things they hear, even if it's utterly pointless. If you're talking to somebody who wants to get into Belgium, that's not even pointless, so say it early. The B, and this is a stretch, stands for build certainty. Some people say that's more of a C, isn't it? But ACC just lacks a bit of bounce somehow. There's various ways you can build certainty. We've talked about 3 of them. Let me run through. I think the best way of building certainty, firstly, is to remember the poem, facts tell, stories sell. Case studies, testimonials, client examples. If I say, let me run through my unique 5-step approach for finding love on a Friday night. Step 1, I schmooze. Step 2, I buy a bit of wine. Step 3, and run through my 5 steps. And then I ask the question, or you ask the question I was dreading hearing, which is, Andy, have you ever actually had love on a Friday night? To which I say, not as such, no. So if you explain step by step what your process is, I understand what it is, but it doesn't prove it works. Facts tell, stories sell. Give me facts about your process. I get it, but it doesn't mean it works. Your 5-step process for love on a Friday night means nothing to me, but if you start with a story about last Friday, maybe if you've been lucky with a written testimonial, if it went particularly well. Dear Andy, you did your best. Another way to add proof, once you've talked about facts tell, stories sell, once you've done client names, once you've done Belgium, once you've done blah, 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 is maybe to say this is how we'll help you get into Belgium. Remember this? This is all the stuff we're doing. It's what we want you to do. You said before in answer to that gentleman's question, mine will be appropriate for every business, but if it works for yours, put it in. I've yet to find a proposal go worse because of that. And another way to build certainty is to get rid of things that they're dreading. Scripts and practice, scripts and practice. And imagine, if you will, you found out they're afters, it's rows 2 and 4. You built the thing, and then you say, so overall it's going to cost you 100 grand, do you want it or not? What might happen? They say not. So the final thing is you say, choice. The great thing is there's a couple of ways we could do this. One way is da-da-da, 100 grand, another way is da-da-da, 60 grand. Which do you prefer? I don't mind. And so do you think I do this generally in written form? Or do you think I do all of this verbally and then just bang it down written form at the end? Yeah, bang it down written form at the end. Can you put it in writing? I'd love to, but I can't yet because I haven't got enough detail. That'll mean the document's too long, boring for you, waste of time for me. We need to talk more. How much is it going to cost? I don't know yet. I need to ask more about it. And then how do you knock it together? Well, you knock it together in the order the client wants it. You're confirming what you said. You've seen this slide before. I wanted to put it at the beginning and the end just to remind you. Sorry, what was the last bit of the proposal? I've forgotten. The brainwashing is working. Now, I'm going to finish the formal bit of this quite soon. I know we're supposed to finish at 6, but I'd much rather wrap it up a bit sooner, and then we can hang around. You've got Q&A if you want, or you can come and see me if you want, Andy Corner and Drayton Corner. I know Drayton wants to say a couple of things before we go. Two very important things to finish. One of them is, hopefully you found today quite inspiring, and hopefully there's some things you can use straight away. The message I want to give you about inspiration is this. An author called Octavia Butler was asked by an interviewer once. She's very good at churning out loads of stuff. Like, I've written 3 books and it nearly emotionally battered me. She could do 3 a year and did it for year after year after year after year after year after year. And someone said to her, how on earth are you able to be so prolific? And she said this. It's not the most inspiring quote. I think inspiration gets you going, habit keeps you going. So if you've enjoyed what Drayton and I have said today, at the very best, it's giving you inspiration and new ideas. But until they become habits, there's always you could struggle when you go past the cake. So on your way home, maybe 3 things that might help you here to make things easy. This is how I turn my learnings into actions. Because if you're not careful, you'll go back and you'll put your notes in your special course pack drawer. You got one of these? Only for use on after courses. Never open it after courses or between courses until you go on another course. I talk about my wife quite a lot, really. She, probably when you saw me today, the first thing you thought of, isn't Andy's head moist? Is that what you thought? First thing? Second thing. All right, let me tell you why it's so moist. Actually, do you know, someone said to me the other day, when you're washing your face, how do you know when to stop? I have wasted hours in the bathroom struggling over that. Where do I want the dirty sheen to go? And looking around the room, I'm maybe not the only one who's got that challenge. We'll leave it there. So Emma was saying to me, as only wives can, you look like you've got leprosy. And so thanks for the feedback, Emma. Feedback is a gift. Tell me more. She goes, yeah, you're old enough and bald enough that your skin's quite dry, so you need to get some moisturiser. So I thought, right, okay, I can do this. I'm all right. I'm comfortable with my skin. So I bought some moisturiser, dead expensive, dead nice. And about a week later, she said, you know your moisturiser? And I went, yep. And she goes, not very good. I said, why? And she goes, it still looks like you've got leprosy. And so I said, with as much dignity as I could, that's because I've forgotten to put it on. And she goes, did you put it in a special moisturiser drawer? And I said, I did. And she said, and do you only open your moisturiser drawer if you remember you need moisturising? I said, I do. And she said, have you remembered any? I said, no. So she goes, why don't you put it next to your contact lens pot? Because you always put your... Fuck's sake. So she said, and then everyone's thinking... When we look back, it was just then I lost the thread of the story, okay? So what happened is, she said, well, your eyes always go to your contact lens pot, so put your moisturiser next to your contact lens pot, and then, of course, you'll see it every day, because you haven't got to remember to open the drawer. I thought it was really good advice, and that's why it's so moist. Yeah? Now, why do we say this? At the end of a day like this, you've got maybe a few things from me and about 20 million from Drayton, but it'd be so easy to put all those notes in a moisturiser drawer. Yeah? And it means you need to remember to open the drawer to remember to do any of this stuff. So the best thing to do is think, where does my face normally go? And put the reminder there. So I'm somebody whose face always goes to my diary, so I can put recurring diary entries in. My face always goes to agenda items because we always have standard meetings and standard agendas. So if I change the standard agenda, I can't avoid it. And that's actually better than diaries, because you know what happens in your diary reminder if you're busy? Just delete that, nobody will know. It's like eating a spoon of Nutella, no calories if it's in secret. Okay, nobody will know. However, if let's say you want your team to ask for more referrals, if you have a team meeting every week, you can have a standard agenda item which says, tell me one person you've asked for a referral since I last saw you. And if that's on the agenda, it's very hard not to do it because you know you're going to be asked. That make sense? So the things to make it easy for today, firstly, get your actions written down. Secondly, get some deadlines on there. And thirdly, think how you're going to make it habit. Because inspiration, forget it, it's not enough. Habit decides if you're going to change forever or for a bit. Now, a couple of things to help you with habits. If you're interested, every Tuesday, I know many of you get this, I've got something called Tuesday Tips. And what Tuesday Tips are, they are emails containing a tip that we send on Tuesday. You're welcome. So you can get those if you want. You're very welcome to them. They're free. We've got about 20,000 people get them. I mean this nicely. I don't mind if you get them or not, but they're there. They're free. If you like them, you can sign anybody up. If you've got a team of 50 and you want them all to do it, I just don't care. They're there. Totally up to you. If you like learning from listening to me talk about stuff, well, I've got a video club as well. So a bit like Ask Drayton, except balder. So stuff like that. So I think the first month is on selling, and there's one on networking and one on presentations. But to be honest, I'd probably start with the Tuesday tips, unless you want the videos, because they're free. Now, I need to stop for a couple of reasons. Firstly, Drayton wants to do a bit of a close, so I need to hand over to him. And secondly, I don't really know anything else. Thank you.